And good afternoon, and welcome to the iGaming Next podcast. Today with Tim Heath. How are you doing, Tim?
Fantastic, Pierre. Thank you very much for having me. And I'm just wondering why, being down in Malta with lovely 22-degree weather, you're wearing scarf and jackets. Isn't this warm weather for you down here?
No, Tim. After 10 years in Malta, my body has adapted
to become
to
Maltese.
The 466 days of sun a year that they advertise. That has taken a toll on my body in the sense that I now cannot handle cold anymore. So I understand that you are from northern part of our resident.
I've flown in from Estonia, and I was so happy here this morning. I thought I might wear my sandals and my shorts to the podcast, and the weather's beautiful.
I'm very, very happy with my scarf today, even though I'm Swedish myself. Like I said, my body has acclimated to this weather, so the scarf stays on today. That's it. And as you can see today, we're in a fantastic studio for the first time in this podcast history, at the courtesy of our friends at Chili's, Alexander Dreyfus, who I know that both of us have known for a long time.
Yes.
And you mentioned before that we both come from the poker world, obviously, since the very early 2000s.
Back in the days, many years ago, and gee, what a great game it used to be.
Yeah, exactly. And so you must have been around Alex during this time a lot, because Alex obviously comes as well from...
Yeah, funnily enough, I've never met him in person, but we've discussed poker and crypto and many things along the way. But at some stage, I'd like to sit down and have a drink and have a proper chat to him. I know he's doing some really interesting things around football clubs in Europe and Latin America, and I've been chatting a bit about doing some introductions there. But it'd be... Well, thanks for letting us use the studio, Alex, but it'd be nice to actually meet you as well at some stage in person.
Yeah, so if you're listening, Alex, we are waiting. Yeah, we are waiting for the call here now for a lunch or something in the soon, I hope. But Tim, I've been so excited over the last couple of weeks, knowing that we are going to do this podcast together. Because just like you haven't met Alex before, I've known you and your name for a very long time. But this is actually the first time
we've met.
We meet today, which is funny as well. It's such a small industry, because our roots, like you just mentioned, come from like the old poker days. For me, I entered the scene sometime around 2004 or something along those lines, and I know that same for you, right?
I started playing poker in '99. We watched. I was at university. We watched Rounders, and we thought we'd pop down to the Crown Casino and play some cards down there. And I could nearly say I've done my MBA in business in the Crown Casino, because I spent more time there learning how to play cards, but also learning business. And it's the most wonderful framework for doing business is playing cards. But then professionally working, obviously I came to Europe in 2002. I caught a train from Hong Kong to Moscow for the Moscow Poker Championships, and fell in love, lost all my money, got to the poker game, won some money, and it was wonderful. And then moved on to Estonia. And have been there for the last 18 years. And the first 10 years we were a poker affiliate, we were a rakeback affiliate. We had an iPoker skin called Hansa Poker back in the day, and then
Hansa Poker,
and then went on to have another brand across many different networks as well. And it was wonderful, except the economics of poker didn't quite work. Operators were rewarded for bringing volume, not quality. So there was not enough, obviously, as you well know, not enough money coming into the networks. And so without this influx of money coming in, it became very, very predatorial, and just not enough money to go around. And it got quite scary when you could see a low-limit game or microstacks game. They're using HUDs and Poker Tracker 3s and Hold'em managers, and they're nine-tabling, and they're knitting at whatever the VPIP was 2 or something ridiculous, and then they're playing 5 cent, 10 cent.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not poker. I grew up playing I was playing poker in Moscow in 2002, and this is eating caviar and smoking cigars and making bluffs and people drunk, and then all the way through Estonia at Olympic Casino playing there when we had all the Swedes and Norwegians and Finns coming in, and I was telling you some stories the other day about what we used to do, but with some of the tricks in the book, but that was real poker, and that was enjoyable poker. That was reading people. That was using the mathematics. Sure, you had to understand your pot odds on the fly, and you had to have your bankroll management, but there's so much more about how you conversed with your opponents and how you got the game warmed up. If you bought the table a round of drinks to sort of, it's like putting a straddle on, and there was entertainment there, and the economics of online poker really didn't quite work, in my opinion.
No, exactly. And I remember during the 2000s when the poker boom was at its height, people were asking the question: is this going to live? Is this going to be like this forever, or is this just a fad?
Yeah,
so to say. And at that time, the opinion was quite actually unanimous that this height is not going to continue. But the argument was that there'll always be kind of a flux of poker players, and I guess that's what ended up happening in the end of the day, because as the online poker boom continued, the skill constantly increased, right?
But also the computing power.
And the computing power.
And the databases. What you used to remember, I can remember hands from 20 years ago, and I see someone in Melbourne, and I remember I cracked your aces with Jack 10 of diamonds. Yeah. Oh, that was a terrible hand. Now you've got computers to remember it all for you. So it takes away a certain element of what used to make a different poker player, a very skillful player, it's just a good player.
Yeah, that's true. And also another aspect from that time I remember as well was that, at that time the poker bots were useless. They couldn't win in the long run against a human player. They were predictable and so forth. But
good for rakeback.
Good for rakeback, yeah, that's true. But now the mystery of playing perfect poker is solved. So a computer can actually play perfect Texas Hold'em these days. And that is scary, obviously, if you're a poker player as well, right?
Well, I think poker's a game of mistakes. And the least amount of mistakes you make, the better poker player you are. I've always learned playing limit hold'em back in the day, folding a hand on the turn is actually as good as, if you do that at the right time, you can have a winning session. Whereas a poker bot is not going to make a mistake there, not going to have emotions where you might want to, someone's got you before, you want to chase after them and get them back just to prove a point. You're taking away the ego. And we always said, looking after poker players and trying to build your brand, it's all about the ego. And how do we pamper that ego and look after that ego and take that ego to a table? It becomes a really interesting contest, especially playing in Eastern Europe back in the day. There was some big personalities there. Tony G, obviously, Kirill Grizimov. Even we had a few guys over in Estonia. Marcel Lusk was a great player, real entertainer but very, very sharp at the same time. And Devilfish we had over there at Sages. And
how was Devilfish?
He was a good musician, actually. He got up and played some songs, and he was a real entertainer, but you could see he grafted his way through, and may rest in peace, obviously. I know he passed a couple of years ago, but he was just one of those old school guys that just knew how to read a room, and you'd have a play for everyone in the room. With it on the table, with the music, or tuning the girls, he'd certainly know what he was doing. But there's some real characters back then. Everyone had a nickname, and we'd go and play in Ukraine and then Lithuania and Poland and Russia, and you'd have this same circuit, and it was good fun. It was very, very good fun. Yeah,
it's fantastic times back then. And like you're saying, there was so, like in the poker world, there were so many characters and originals, you know what I mean? Like, and in the upper echelon of the poker world, it wasn't necessarily always the best players who were there. You know what I mean? It was often the risk takers, and the risk taker often comes with like charisma as well in some regards. So it was really at that time it was really primed for TV and primed to entertain. At that time, like the old poker shows, like High Stakes Poker and all the.
How good
was High Stakes Poker?
I still watch it these days.
Yeah, exactly. Rewatch it. That was the famous quote by Mike Sexton: "Bingo, bango, bongo." That was the one. In a High Stakes Poker back in the day.
What's interesting though, what I learnt playing poker was that a handshake was the most important thing. It was the binding contract. You don't need lawyers. You don't need contracts. You need a handshake. And there's a certain. Also, you could leave €1,000 of chips in front of you and go off to the toilet or go and have dinner. Come back, and that money would still be there. There was a certain respect amongst the players. So then there was that. It sort of taught you how to be true to your word. On the table, you fight hard, but you respect that handshake. And People used to loaning money back and forth, hundreds of thousands of euros, especially online as well. There was that element of trust there, which I don't think you always see in today's gaming world, or maybe in other parts of society as well. You wouldn't have as much trust like you would in the high stakes poker.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're saying, because the community was very tight at that time as well. It feels like that community feeling isn't really there perhaps anymore in the poker world. But back in the 2000s, that's how it was. Kind of everyone knew each other when you went to the EPTs or to the local tournaments and these things. And I mean, at that time as well, in general, there was a lot more Wild West than it is today, obviously.
Yeah.
And that obviously manifested in a lot of different ways. I mean, it's really a gold mine for conspiracy theories sometimes, even the old poker world. Like I remember the absolute bet,
the UB absolute poker
UB
one,
scandal, for example. That was a conspiracy theory, for those who don't know, that basically started in the poker forums around 2006, I believe.
2+2, yeah.
So at that time, Absolute Bet and Ultimate Poker were like one of the biggest sites to play poker on. And they started circulating rumors within the poker forums that there was cheating going on, basically. That there was certain accounts that were playing so well that
above their skill level, basically. Yeah.
That it's impossible to keep that consistency. They were basically calling huge bets with like 7 high on the river, and they were right every single time. So the rumors started flowing on the forums like this cannot be possible. And they started to research more. Ultimatebet, Absolute Poker denied these rumors until they couldn't deny it any longer. It turned out that this conspiracy was actually true, right?
Yeah. It was a database. Someone had broken into the back end of the database, and they had super admin rights in there that they could get in to see the whole cards. But the movie is Runner. Amazon Prime, and it's based loosely on this conspiracy back in the day. But what I find very interesting about that is the sort of investigatory analysis done by 2+2 on this to understand, hang on, this player's playing well, but he can't maintain that over that period of time. It's almost like a blockchain, that it's a immutable ledger of this is the results. And this is where your Poker Tracker 3 and your Hold'em managers came in, and you can review the results and say, yes, this player is good or worse, but they can't keep going at that level.
No.
So
exactly, and this also brings back, like, you hear a lot of people kind of saying, oh, poker is rigged, or people are complaining that Evolution Gaming's blackjack tables are rigged or whatever, but it's so easy to just take a history of bets and mathematically you can calculate if the game is rigged or not, right? Like it's quite easy to do that, but so when the Absolute Poker and Ultimatebet scandal happened, that's when you see how if you take a certain amount of hands and study them, how easy it is to actually identify the cheating is going on. Yep.
Or the outliners that going which present themselves.
Yeah.
But what I couldn't understand and obviously it wasn't the owners of Absolute Poker and Ultimatebet doing it, because if you run a fair gaming house, the mathematics looks after itself.
Yeah.
You've got your 3% edge. You've got your 4% rake. You've got your 1.1% edge on back row. You don't need to change the course of the game.
No.
Let the maths take care of itself.
Exactly.
Provide the environment. So that's what we were saying. Well, there's no reason for us to cheat, because we're in a good position already.
Yeah.
We're just got to make sure we keep the electricity going and the customers happy, keep them playing in the game, and we're doing our job.
Yeah, of course. So just to close off the Ultimatebet story, what's funny about this is that obviously they eventually figured out, obviously, that there was these super user accounts that were in play, so they could basically see, these super users could basically see the other players' whole cards on the table as they were playing, right? And thanks to the 2+2 investigations, they managed to basically prove that undeniably. Eventually, Absolutebet and UB, they also said that yes, this is actually happening, but no one ever got convicted.
Really, they didn't find out exactly who it was.
They had, so the story goes even deeper, and I encourage people who listen to this to Google the Absolutebet and Ultimatebet poker scandal, because it was huge at that time. And what happened was that, if I'm not mistaken, now what happened was that they did identify kind of who were behind this scandal, and there were even audio recordings that leaked as well, where they were talking about how much money were swindled, because that was also a controversy. You didn't know exactly how much money.
How much they've been getting.
They could identify like 3 different accounts or something, but most likely there were more accounts that were not discovered. So there were millions of dollars basically that were identified as fraud, but most likely it was a lot more. And there were audio recordings leaked about this. They were talking about this in the background, but in the end, it never led to any arrest.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
Costa Rica for you.
Yeah. exactly. That's it. So Tim, all poker players in that era, they have a favorite poker hand. Like a silly hand. What was your?
Mine was Queen 10 suited.
Queen 10 suited.
And I used to, in cash games, it was my nut buster. Because someone would come in with an ace king, an ace queen, ace jack, and you'd sit there with Queen 10, and the flop would come. Ace king jack, and they would be pushing shit up a hill with their ace king, and you're just sitting there with the nuts. It's it was
every
just time. Even with ace queen 10 flop, and he's got ace king, and he thinks he's like magic, and then you sit there with 2 pair, and thanks very much.
Yeah, for me it was the 10-7.
10-7.
That's a sneaky hand, the 10-7, because then you get the 8-9 in there.
Yeah.
No one knows that you're sitting with 10-7, and then bam, you hit the nuts as well. Always a winning hand.
But it was always good back in the day to start raising under the gun with a 7-8 suited or a 4-5 suited, because people are still learning the hand rankings, and they're not putting you on 6-7 of spades under the gun when you're raising. That said, the game has changed an incredible amount. There's a new concept of floating. I've got no idea what that is. I don't play that much anymore, but people are calling with nothing just to bluff the river. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's the next level. We were talking about this the other day, Tim, and I was saying as well, it's, I used to be the poker VIP manager for Betsson and BetSafe, something around like 2012 or so, 2013, no, 2012, yeah. And I got to know a lot of the poker players back then, and obviously being in that world and so forth. But it's only... Of all of the poker players, like probably I got to know like 200 or 300 professional poker players at that time. Only one of them survived until this year.
Wow!
And he also is one of my best friends, Chris, and he also now stopped playing poker. So he was one of the longest surviving poker pros. He was a professional poker player for 12 years. Okay, so from the very first day. That was like his very first way of making money, and that's the only way he ever made money was playing poker since that time. But it's gotten so tough now that not even a player on his level are able to now keep a consistency
win rate
in the win rate. Yeah, it's different since.
Look, I remember I wanted to be a professional poker player back in the day, and I won a few tournaments, and I was a fairly decent cash game player. But I had to make a decision at one stage. Do I start studying a lot and go to that next 5-10 level, the No Limit Hold'em 1000 buy-in? I'm just like, or do I actually run the poker side and build a business around it using my knowledge of what I want as a customer, and build that environment where you become the house? And in terms of poker, to me, you always had to win the next hand to make money. So you had to always keep winning hands. Exactly. Whereas if you're running the house, you just need to bring the players in and fill the seats, and then you're taking the rake, and it's self-sustainable. And my thesis, I did computer science and economics at university, and my thesis was on online poker back in '99 or 2000.
That's amazing.
Because it was how you scale an e-commerce in a type service, and to spawn a new table online wasn't the same as doing it in Crown Casino. So how can this, how does this sort of take form 20 years ago? And it was a super interesting topic. Plus I love the content of playing cards myself. So it made a lot of sense. But I made that decision to sort of get into the business side as an affiliate, as I said, and still could play for the recreational fun of it. Yeah, so that was your starting point into the journey that now led to Coingaming and, obviously Yolo Investments and stuff like that. Can you talk a little bit, like when you took that first step?
I mean, because this is interesting to me in general. You're obviously an extremely successful entrepreneur with several projects that you started and now obviously invested in a lot of other projects. And it's really interesting for me to hear kind of how you started your journey.
So right back in the day, or?
Yeah.
I think the first one was in Estonia. We built pokerclub.ee, which was tournament management software for one of the local casinos in Estonia with Andreas Berget. And that was simply, every Thursday to have a tournament and have rankings for a prize at the end, and we wanted to build online entry. Then we started building live, not podcasting, but live news, like Poker News now do it. So before Poker News, we did that for Ladbrokes, going on the Caribbean cruise and the one around the Mediterranean.
What was it called?
Live reporting.
Okay, live reporting, yeah.
Yeah, so we built software so you could say this hand has come up and Ace King versus Queen 10 and he's moved all in, and we travelled around on the boats doing the reporting and doing that.
I remember Ladbrokes did the poker cruises back then.
Yeah, it was good fun, very good fun.
Yeah.
But primarily for me, my goal then was to set up this poker club software all across Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
And then on all of them, we just put a party poker banner at the top.
Okay, yeah.
And that helped us become one of the biggest party poker affiliates in Europe.
Oh, right. Okay.
Because we had all the poker players, and then we obviously helped them come online and with the promotions and whatnot. Yeah. And that's where the affiliating started. So we were a team of 5-10 people for many years, up to about 20 people. We got our own, because you're only a certain percentage as an affiliate. When you start owning your own skins, we had to grow our business a bit more. So about 20 people, and even in 2014 when we started Coingaming, we were still 20 people, and now we're 500.
Yeah. So Coingaming, you started already?
The end of 2013. So we had some problems with network liquidity and reconciliation, which were certainly beyond our control. Yeah. And to that end, we had some source code of one of the poker networks in escrow because they owed us a lot of money. Yeah. And we had a Christmas dinner in 2013, and I remember had 15, 20 people there, and I said with the vodka, if only we can we're a very smart bunch of programmers and people and business, if only we can control the money, we can do anything we dream of. Right. And my CTO, Rayo, said, why not Bitcoin? I'm like, what the hell is Bitcoin?
This was 2013?
2013. Yeah. No one, some of the programmers obviously talked about it and dismissed it, and our office was a bit warm because we had Bitcoin miners in there, unbeknown to me. Yeah. And then within 1 month, we set up the Coin Poker Network using the source code we had in escrow, and we wanted to build a poker network because I saw the problem between reconciling money on a monthly basis. If the money doesn't come in from the losing sites and go out to the winning sites, there's going to be problems. So we thought with Bitcoin, there can be instantaneous transactions. It's a push transaction. It can happen every single hand. It doesn't need to wait a month, and money can move properly. We put some BetSoft slots and Takisto slots on the side of this poker network. And people started playing those slot games, and we're like, oh, okay, well, that's 10 grand a month, that's good. And the next month, 20 grand, and then 50, and then 100. And like, all right, forget the poker. Yeah. Let's start bitcasino.io. Yeah. And that's where we then, from 2014 to 16, I went to the NetEnt Innovation Week in Sweden and talked to the board about Bitcoin. Yeah. I went and talked to Microgaming about Bitcoin, went and talked to Evolution about Bitcoin, and trying to sell them on why it was good why it's good as a digital gaming chip, and there's nothing to be scared of, and obviously work with their the head of compliance in the different respective tier 1 suppliers, and helping them understand what it is and why it should be used. But we got a lot of traction from the tier 2 suppliers, and we just gradually built up house sites, and there was a lot of prime dice and dice sites back in the day, and they felt like garage operators, like 2 men and a dog running a site. We at least knew how to run a poker site at scale, so we thought if we can do this properly, we can really get a good place in the market, and we come up with 3 words being fun, fast and fair. And if everything we do is based around the concept of fun, fast and fair, we can build a good brand. Okay. So our original thing was we got the first license in Curacao for a Bitcoin gaming operation. I helped write the regulations in Curacao, and also in Isle of Man, I helped them, and also UKGC on how Bitcoin could be used within the gaming regulation. And then we had a concept. We wanted to pay every winnings within 1 minute. So whether you won €1 or you won €1 million, we're paying you within 1 minute.
Yeah.
And that was the basic framework, skeleton of the business.
Yeah.
Because as a poker player, if I won, I didn't want to have to wait a week to get my money out of Party Poker 888 or Full Tilt. If I want it now.
Exactly.
And funnily enough, when you did that and you paid out within 1 minute, within 6 hours, the money will come back in to the casino. Because that gambler gets the itch, I'll just put 500 in. I'll just put 1,000 in. I'll just put 2,000. That's nearly a Fibonacci sequence of the money coming back in again. So when you're telling your fraud team, your payments team, it's a good thing that they've had a win. That's what we want them to do. Yep. Let's pay them as quickly as possible. Let's actually send them a bottle of champagne. We sent a Japanese guy off to the Hilton in Tokyo, for him and his girlfriend, and he got the champagne and the chocolates, and we bought her Jimmy Choo shoes.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
And he loved it. He's going, well, I've just won €250,000. Why are you doing this? I said, how many people did you tell? Oh, I told everyone. Thanks. That's all we wanted. And and that money that he had withdrawn, it piecemeal went back in again, and he's still one of our great customers with a great relationship, even with me, still talking to me, and lifetime value, fantastic, but they've got to win sometimes. And the way I explain it, it's a 51-49. You flip the coin 100 times, we're going to win 51, you're 49. Let's celebrate the 49 times because they've beaten the mathematics. We should be happy for them. And if we take that approach, we're a good operator.
And that's what I mean. That's a learning, I guess, that comes from the poker time in the variance, basically. That you can lose 30 days in a row. I mean, poker pros have losing months, where they can lose 6 months in a row.
But they're playing good, proper poker.
They know that they're playing right. They just have to wait, and then eventually, in the very long run, obviously, you have that 1% edge.
Well, it still astounds me walking around on a casino floor and people going, "Look, there's been 20 reds. It must be black the next one."
Exactly.
Like, you're an intelligent person. How can you even think that? It's a non-consequential event. But this is the human nature. And thank God it exists for our industry, because
we look for patterns, as human beings.
But let's support this. And when you do break that pattern and happen to win big, well, let's celebrate with you. And that's what our business has been built on.
It's a nice thing. And I remember also back from my days as VIP manager, so we obviously try to reward our players and celebrate wins as well and so forth. And sometimes it's not the most expensive gift that players appreciate the most. It is the personal touch, right?
Yep.
One thing, I think the most appreciated thing that we ever did was there was one of our players who won a Sunday poker tournament. And so I looked up his account. He was like a Swedish guy, 23 years old. He had his own address and so forth. So I said, okay, let's take a gamble here, and I'll randomly send him a pizza. And I asked them to, with the sauce, I asked them to write bet safe on the
on the
pizza, randomly, and not say anything. Just hopefully he's at home and hopefully he likes pizza. I mean, who doesn't like pizza? It's a small gamble in that regard, It's not like you're sending, I don't know, like a fish or something. But and within a day, he got the pizza, and he messaged us in the chat. He went into the customer support and just thrilled for this.
Blown away.
Because it's just one of these things that it's not about the amount of money that we spend, but he knew as well that we had consciously seen that he had won. We had spent time on this to look it up and so forth, and that's how you retain a successful customer, right?
Well, it's so expensive to acquire new customers. It's a little bit of thought helps you maintain them and then just increase that the lifetime value, or lifetime, not session length, but lifetime time with you is the important one. There's a great one in the Bitcoin world that's called Bitcoin Pizza Day. And it's a day where someone sent 10,000 Bitcoins, God knows how much that is now, excuse me, for a pizza. And it was a guy in England who bought a pizza for a guy in Florida.
Okay.
and he paid 10,000 Bitcoin, and the guy got the pizza. And this is probably 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
So now there's an International Bitcoin Pizza Day. Yeah. So we try and buy pizzas for all of our Bitcoin customers.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And then we ask them to take a photo, and we ring up the Domino's in New Delhi and say, please deliver a pizza to so and so here. And then there's another pizza shop in Korea and a pizza shop in Chile, and then one in South Africa. Yeah. And then we're sending them a pizza, and it's a small thing. But we're talking about, and this is because it's Bitcoin Pizza Day. And then, of course, there's a blog post with photos of all our happy customers eating a pizza up, because they all love being a part of this community.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Like, wasn't that the one of the first ever transactions with Bitcoin?
Was the first known e-commerce transaction.
Was someone buying a pizza, and that was the 10,000.
10,000 Bitcoins.
Yeah, because back in the day, the rates were a lot lower.
A little bit lower then.
Yeah. Do you remember what the rate was when you bought your first?
Yeah,
Bitcoin?
I've bought 4 Bitcoins in my life. Yeah. And I bought them on Bitstamp for September 2013, and it cost me €500, so 125 euros each. And I remember sending a SWIFT or an IBAN off to Slovenia, and I got my 4 Bitcoins. And,
exactly. Yeah, back then it was similar for me actually. Around that time as well, I had this thought that Bitcoin, crypto, this is gonna maybe be something. I don't know, because at that time the rate had increased, from like, it was skyrocketing at that time up to 500. It went up to 800, I think.
About $800, yeah.
And then it crashed down again to like 200.
200 and something, yep.
And then it went up again to like 2,000 or something like that.
But this is poker variance again. Don't worry.
Variance.
You only lose money if you sell your stock.
Yeah,
if you hold the stock and ride the down, then it'll come back up again.
Yeah. I remember for me, I was trying to get into it. I was trying to be interested in Bitcoin, but I didn't have any vested interest. So I said, okay, let me buy 1 Bitcoin. And maybe now I'm going to be motivated to learn more, because I'm like invested with I think I bought at 600 if I'm not mistaken. So I bought this Bitcoin. It went up to 800. Great news. Then it crashed down to 200. I said, God damn it, And then I lost interest. And I just forgot about my Bitcoin. And then, like 6 years later, it started to climb, right? It was this...
and then you're searching around, where are those private keys?
Exactly. So it was like, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000. It ticked up at that time to almost 20,000. But when it was around 8,000, I realized that I have this Bitcoin somewhere from like 7 years ago, I have to try to find it, because it's worth like $8,000 now. So I knew I had it at an exchange. So I was going through my inbox, from all the different spam emails that I have and whatever. And I had like I remember I created several accounts in several different exchanges because I wanted to find an exchange at that time that accepted Visa card.
Right.
So it was very difficult at that time, right? You had to do a bank transfer like you did. Yeah. But I was too lazy to do it. I wanted to do it with my Visa card. And there was one exchange that accepted that. It was called Veerbox.
It wouldn't have been a 6051 transaction either, I don't think, back then.
yeah, exactly. So I eventually found it. I found the account, and I was thinking, like, this is fantastic. I have I'll be able to withdraw my 1 Bitcoin, and I logged into the account, and it was empty. And I looked through. So in Bitcoin, obviously, you can track where the money has moved and so forth in the chain. And my account had gotten hacked.
Right.
Because at that time, all the exchanges, they were run in a guy's basement, basically.
The Mt. Gox and...
Mt. Gox, back the big scandal back in the day, right? With there was a massive amount of Bitcoin.
It was a huge amount, yeah.
Did that ever get resolved, Mt. Gox?
It's still in the courts in Tokyo, funnily enough. And apparently there's going to be something happening soon. But yeah, it was a strange guy running that one.
Yeah, because that was a huge scandal at that time.
But speaking about hacking, so there's an interesting case. We're very, obviously, have to be on top of our game in terms of that. And one of the guys who does our cybersecurity, he was doing a demonstration to new starters and saying what to be aware of. And he said, when you get a Bitcoin wallet, you've got to write down your 12 words. That's your key. That it's like a passphrase that you can restore your wallet on any... Because the wallet doesn't live on your phone, it lives in the ether. But this unlocks the key to that wallet. Yep. So anyway, he said, don't take a photo. He said, I took a photo of my 12 words and it's stored in my gallery. My child was using my phone playing a game and had to install an update, and the update gave access to the photo gallery. with the child not realising, and just said yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Then a hacker was able to come in, view the guy's gallery, get the 12 words, go and re-back up the passphrase on a different wallet and steal all the Bitcoins out of his wallet.
Yeah. That's what you have to.
So it's good to have the keys to your own private bank, that you own your own personal bank, which is what Bitcoin allows. Is it for everybody who maybe are not as cyber privacy conscious or good enough technically to understand the ways hackers might get in? I don't know. There's a bit of a void there between custodial wallets, which is an exchange or someone holding that for you, to a non-custodial wallet where you're in control of your own private keys. But is the world ready for that? Yeah,
that's the question, right? So if we take a step back now, Tim, as well. So, we talked about you. You started your company in 2013 or so with Coingaming, and obviously we
started 2002 really, because or 2004, because my CTO is still with me.
Okay. So they're kind of the parts of the original team.
This is where there's a startup that pivots through different businesses. But Coingaming itself started in 2014.
Yeah. So that's when you kind of entered the crypto world, so to say, at that time. And obviously you've seen this like massive rise now in that space, and your company have now scaled up until almost like 500 employees in a very short amount of time. And I'm curious to know, because someone who is a little bit outside of the crypto world, when I look at the crypto world, I see mostly people who are holding Bitcoin as an investment, like they would do with shares. In my day-to-day life, I'm not exposed to people, or I'm not exposed to ways to use Bitcoin that much in general, or cryptos in general. Can you talk a little bit about, like, because I know that you guys are obviously very big in Asia, and is it that in that continent, kind of the culture is much more open to using Bitcoin in general in society, or is there? So, or am I just a dinosaur now?
I think. Yeah. No, you're right. There's a couple of different things here. So, firstly, you've got people who are privacy conscious, not of Big Brother, but of the missus.
Yeah.
The girlfriend, the wife, and they like to put a punt. They like to bet on the footy without the boss finding out what you're doing with that $100 every Saturday. So instead of having on your credit card statement paddy power every Saturday, and even in some places from banks that might not give you a loan if you're going to the casino or betting on sports, betting in crypto allows you to have that entertainment, and you can be very responsible and very responsible gaming as a punter, but you enjoy a punt on $50 every Saturday. Now, you can do that with Bitcoin away from prying eyes. So that's the first, let's call it, target audience of who were there.
Yep.
We were very lucky in the early days. It was so cheap for some people to buy Bitcoin that they didn't value. It's like poker chips. Phil Ivey always said that if you start thinking about how much money that chip in front of you is worth, you've lost the game. So if you start saying, well, actually that's worth a car, then you can't play. So I think people didn't realise what the actual worth of those Bitcoins were that they had got early. They just knew they'd bought it for $100 a Bitcoin. If it's worth $10,000 now, they're still playing as if it's worth $100, because you're right, you can't go and buy the bread and milk with Bitcoin, although you will be able to soon. So you're taking gaming chips, digital gaming chips, into a player's environment, which, as opposed to seeing €150 balance on your balance up here, you're now seeing 15 milli Bitcoin, which is a vastly different experience from that perspective. So you've removed that sort of day-to-day value of them. On to your third question about emerging markets. So whether it be a Japan or a Korea, or an India or China, Indonesia, yes, it's much more difficult for people to move money around in those countries. That said, they have skipped the desktop payments generation, and it's now everything's done on mobile phone.
Yeah.
So China, WeChat and Alipay is 90% of the market.
Sorry?
90% of all e-commerce transactions is WeChat and Alipay.
Yeah.
Kenya, 50% is M-Pesa. So it's bigger than national banks in that sense in terms of transactional volume. Yeah. They don't have that traditional credit card like we have in Australia, in Europe. In America, they still have a checkbook.
Yeah.
In England as well.
Malta too.
Really? You got to chill.
Oh my goodness. Tim, I don't even want to start with that. You know?
So let's not go there.
Yeah.
But if we think about Asia being now at the forefront of that sort of mobile payment technology, which is a QR code, the digital chip, the digital thing of value, of trusted value, which has a value, is more pleasant to them to use than using a credit card. So it's quite normal for them, it's a natural adoption to use crypto because they're used to doing WeChat payments on a scanning QR code in the first place. So, and plus from a gaming perspective, moving money around in those jurisdictions, it's getting harder and harder and harder. There are always ways to do it. There's no doubt about that. But using USDT or using Ripple or EOS, Cardano, whatever you want, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, it's much easier to move those monies across borders. I'm not advocating whether it's the right thing to be doing or not, but I'm just saying it potentially it is. And I think even Asia Gaming, it's a huge operation. It used to be 6% of the Chinese market. They have now stopped taking RMB as a deposit. They're only taking USDT. And this is a shift in the market coming now. I know a lot of operators in Asia are following suit there.
But you know, so kind of removing friction is the key for Bitcoin. Obviously, that you can move money instantaneously between countries and the things. I mean, in the world of fiat, normal currency, I know that we work with companies like Trustly, for example, who are also trying to remove friction. Basically, that's what what their company is based on, and they also make the argument that credit cards are kind of yesterday's news, even in the fiat world, you know, with open banking now taking center stage, PSD2 in Europe, making it easier for companies like Trustly to offer payment solutions that just removes friction and things in general. Do you think that payments with fiat will also become so easy that they become similarly frictionless to Bitcoin eventually?
So if you
crypto.
Think about PSD2 and open banking just for a second, it's like you're on Amazon.com. You've got something in your basket. You go to payout methods and you want to say, you know, suddenly I've got LHV. I want to pay with my LHV account. I can now bring my account balance onto that Amazon page through tokenization, and I can say I've got $550 in this account. Okay, I want to spend from my savings account. Spend. I'm not opening up a merchant account. I'm not going to a different page in a internet banking, putting in the IBAN, doing everything. I'm now moving that onto the merchant checkout page. Now,
very powerful.
All of a sudden, it's the difference between a push transaction and a pull transaction. Credit cards, you're pulling money from the customer. So there's going to be a chargeback, there's going to be fraud, that's why you've got that the 3D secure, because it's trying to stop fraud happening. Now, if it's Bitcoin or it's open banking, it's a push transaction. The customer is pushing money to the merchant. There's no way you can say that's a fraudulent chargeback because you've pushed the money. With crypto, there's an open ledger showing this as well. So there's no disputing what's happened, which I think is a good thing for transparency for money movements. Now, that said, we've just invested in 2 banks and we're looking at another one in South America at the moment. We want to have a network of banks of which we can use for our on-ramps and off-ramps onto our crypto rails, as I call it. So the project's coins.io, and based on the Lightning Network, this is moving money or moving value transactions, 60,000 transactions per second. Currently, Bitcoin in the first generation of it is 12 transactions per second. So now we're getting up to the Visa, MasterCard levels that can move money rapidly back and forth. But then we've got a banking network underneath that we can do open banking. We can use connected payments. We can do PSD2. We can even, one of the banks is in the Philippines with all the Asian currencies, so we can do our instant hawala basically between 2 banks, because we know we've on board and have the compliance of all that group of companies across the world. Now the money can move across simply. Yes, we might take a pip or two on the forex, but as a merchant, my business is the gaming casino. I just need to move those Philippine pesos to Europe or the Hong Kong dollars and Singapore dollars or Brazilian real, or I just want seamless efficiency.
Exactly. And you know, payments, although it sounds like a boring subject in general, it is a subject that is with every iteration when it removes friction, it changes the world in very interesting ways. So on the PSD2 and open banking, I think for those for listeners who haven't heard this expression before, and even for myself, I have a very rudimentary understanding of what it actually means, that the banks basically are able, like anyone can use the bank's APIs to kind of plug in, like you were saying, to connect your bank account to Amazon, for example. Can you explain a little bit more?
My understanding, as a user, through the banking infrastructure, if you're a merchant, I can give you access to my bank account.
Yeah.
To do, then I can do my final PIN code and whatnot on your merchant site, on your travel company, but I'm pushing my details to you through tokenization that you can then transact with me. In a single API across the European Union. So
and this is coming into effect in the end of the year, I think.
So it started, I think, about 12 to 15 months ago, but the EU said it's got to happen by this end date, and it was a 2-year time frame. Some banks have jumped onto it really super quickly. Some have been very slow, but we always have dinosaurs in the industry, so that's good. But there's a mandate that everyone has to, I think, as you said, by middle of next year or something. So
I think this ties in with a phenomenon in society in general, which is the question of speed versus trust in society. So, if we
if you have both?
Why not have both? Yeah, exactly. But it's still, making the comparison is interesting because it pushes the development forward much quicker. So if we jump back like 10 years ago, the generation that was young at that time wasn't necessarily raised on the internet, so to say. So you look at that generation looked at the internet with a little bit suspicion. Yeah, especially the gambling world, for example, there were a lot of dodgy brands, and you didn't know who you could trust and so forth. So having trust in your brand was something that was very important at that time. And same if you look at like what banks you are using. The bank was considered the most safe institution where you can hold your money. Okay, that was their priority: safety, not speed. Dinosaurs. But now, when we rolled forward the tape, it seems to me that the culture is changing very much, because now we are much more tech fluent. Internet is a big part of our lives. We want our lives to be quick, smooth, easy, so forth. So look at like the rise of Revolut, for example. To me, this is super fascinating.
Brilliant.
Because it's a completely new brand that no one ever heard about. But they focus on speed, not necessarily trust in the way they brand themselves. They didn't even have a bank license before, so you weren't protected by the bank guarantee and stuff like that. But what happens? People prioritize speed. So the rise of Revolut, it became huge from in no time. Well,
it's speed and customer experience. They identified what customers of today actually want to do. We've been out and I owe you $20 from Pierres last night. Click, done, instantly in your account. Now to try and do that in an old banking environment was actually, what's the IBAN, what's the BSB, what's the SWIFT?
Yeah, exactly.
Banks haven't caught up to actually understanding what the customers want. And I agree with you, the whole Instagram world, and if we look at now TikTok, which is a 20-second, 30-second snippet, and then on to the next one. This is the time span of people. This is how long you've got them for. You don't want to go and line up in a bank for 4 hours to fill out a form to withdraw money from the bank or to make a transfer. Those times have gone. People have less time, and you on demand. Netflix, I want to watch this on television. I don't want to watch the public broadcasting channel, which is going to tell me there's a James Bond on Saturday night. Well, I must stay home to watch that one, because we used to do this, but now times have changed, and I think banking is really catching up with it. And you're right, HSBC Standard Charter, all about trust and security. But HSBC, they also used to, I don't know if I can say this, used to tell the cartels in Mexico how wide to make the trolleys so they fit through the branches in Mexico City when you have cash on a tray. So I mean, It's public knowledge they got done for it and got fined. But I mean, that brand that we trusted.
Exactly.
Did we really know what was going on? And
turns out there's a massive amount of fraud in these banks. And I mean, it's like also in Sweden recently, there was a massive scandal in one of the most trusted classical banks in the whole Scandinavia, with Swedbank scandal, which was huge, And so you're right, can we trust
But I love the challenger brands. I'm really loving
disruptive
and this is probably Yolo Investments. What we're trying to do is that we know first we ask what does the customer want and how do we make their experience better. Now if we can find investments around that concept, that's what we like to explore, and that's what we like to help. Now whether that is TikTok or Insta or I think Facebook's dead, to be quite honest. I think it's the generations moved on to a new form of entertainment. So you must always be ahead of the curve. And as Gretzky said, you've got to skate to where the puck's going. So that's what we try and look at the ecosystem around our main brands. What can we invest into, which is going to either the economy will move towards or the persona will move towards, but it will support our existing brands and support that ecosystem of what we're doing.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of looking at it because, paradigm shifts in general in society happens when culture change, right? So in this case, now we're talking about the move from trust to speed. And when people's psychology changes, so they prefer speed, then what products can you then build to serve that need, right?
Yep.
So you always need to look at where is the culture going, and then trying to adopt that into the products that you're looking at, right?
And if you look at a casino these days, how many of them have actually spent time and R&D dollars into investigating what that experience needs to be like in 12 months' time? How many are simply cookie-cutter sites of copying what someone else does? And that shits me, to be quite honest, because I believe Bit Casino is can't be very unique. It is unique compared to a lot of our competitors because we focus on our A/B tests and what the customer wants. And I don't care what the competitors are doing. I ban deposit bonuses company-wide. I hate them.
Oh, really?
I think they're cancerous. That we're giving someone money and then hoping they don't complete it.
Yeah.
What a lazy form of marketing.
Yeah.
I want my marketeers to be out there putting Bitcoin logos on Watford shirts, you know. That's cool. That's good fun that we're proud of. And you know what? Our customers become ambassadors of our product because they like to be on that journey with us as well. It's amazing. I go to a lot of the VIP events and talk with them and eat and drink and just they want to meet me and just spend time, and I really enjoy getting their feedback on I said, take my shoes, what would you do to make our site better? How do we make Sportsbet.io better? What do we need to do? What improves the experience? What can I do that you'll go and tell 50 of your friends that this is the best site to play on? You know what? They'll tell me something. I'll send a message on Slack. Get this done. Because he's just promised me he'll bring 50 friends if we do this. Now, if the whole company of 500 people take this attitude towards the customer feedback is so important, and you put the customer at the centre of the universe, money's irrelevant. That will naturally come. That's a secondary thing because you're doing the right things for the right target audience. And if the customer says, I want to see your promotions on TikTok, well, by God, if we don't get onto TikTok and do it properly, or we want you to do this social media or this streaming or this Twitch stream and this way of doing it, we must listen to them and do what they ask for. Yeah, exactly. And I guess sometimes the bigger you are as an organization, the more difficult it is to take these turns that society takes together with the companies, let's say, right? It's because people are scared of losing what they've already got.
That too, yeah. And also you get so stuck into the day-to-day. So, you as a visionary, you will think about the things. But sometimes if you don't infuse this into your company, I guess, as a culture, then all the employees will be so stuck in the day-to-day that they aren't looking at the wider trends in society. And I think a good example of that in general, if we want to mix in the iGaming industry, is the shift from desktop to mobile, the paradigm shift, which was, if we look back on that, we talked about this before on the podcast, but if we look back at that time, it was such an obvious paradigm shift, if we in hindsight, But the shift that the operators did, it happened very late. I was in Betsson 2011.
But the suppliers weren't making the games. The games were all built on Flash, which didn't work on mobile phones.
Didn't work on mobile phones. So it's the whole, ecosystem. But it wasn't really that anyone highlighted that to the suppliers either. Everyone was kind of stuck in the day to day. Okay, what promotion are we gonna do next month? I mean, that's the thinking, right? Even in Betsson, where I worked at during that paradigm shift, and there wasn't anyone talking about mobile at like 2011. Like 5 years after the adoption of the smartphone.
So can a big company afford to try and think 5 years in advance, or are they just looking at 1 quarter, 2 quarter in advance, because that's when the numbers come to the market?
Exactly.
And actually, you need to be worrying about your quarterly KPIs and what the city says.
Yeah.
That's why we've always been a private company. We'll always be a private company, because if we think there's an idea which is good, it's going to take 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, we can be in negative on that project for 2 years, but we know deep down within our organisation, this is what our end goal is. We know it's going to go down and then take time to go up. We can invest in that.
Yeah, exactly.
But interestingly, you said, having that visionary kind of, that I prefer doing this. I'm much better at the startup culture. And as we grew too big, it was kind of like, some people do like process. Yeah. I don't know, but we do this SDI thing. If you're a goal-orientated, people-orientated, or process. Now, I'm very red, so very goal-orientated, where there are people who like process and whatnot. So as a bigger company, you can't just be wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and get stuff done. So I've actually stepped down as the CEO and let Maria, who's been with me 10 years, take over now as CEO, and then Anita, who was my head of ARP, is now a COO. So we had 6 big internal promotions, because the culture is so important to bring that forward. But it's allowed me to sort of step off to the side and focus on YOLO and say, right, well, here's our sports bet and bit casino doing really well. What can I invest in around these products to make them even better? Yeah. And that's where I'm best at that idea stage, that sort of embryonic stage of, I think if we did this way, we can do that, and that's really cool. That then helps this one, help that one, and I think we're invested in 6 slot companies now. Yeah. We've built our own Bombay studios in Estonia, and we're building a land-based casino. And
you're building a land-based casino.
We're building a land-based casino. Well, I want 8 of them around the world. Yeah,
exactly.
They're saying start with the first one. No, but we can do this one and this.
Yeah, exactly. Right in the middle of the pandemic.
Well, it was actually. It was in April.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. That's right there. Yeah.
Woke up and said, "You got a month to build it, guys." So.
a month to build. But this is the time to to go against the stream in some ways, because when society changes this quick, and there's the pandemic that is now changing our culture, is driving us forward, and things are going to be different after the pandemic, and going into these kind of legacy industries that haven't changed for 100 years, that have this culture of just maintaining, or this culture of just incremental improvement of the processes or whatever, they are not the people who are going to be able to change. To lose. They are scared to lose, and they're not going to be able to take risks and this thing. It's the new players that enter these industries. And I see, for example, a friend of mine, Henrik Persson, who just invested in an airline. You know what I mean? Like it seems that this would be the last thing that you want to do right now, right?
Well, interestingly, we just had a startup called Slack Travel we've built. Okay. We've built our own travel company now.
Okay, travel company.
And the reason we got behind doing this was that we spend a fair bit of money on travel company-wide. I spend a fair chunk of it probably for the company as well. But in Slack, I want you to be able to go and search for your flights. Yeah. You need to go and ask your manager approval. You've got to send it off and get IATA to issue the ticket. It's got to go to accounting and get paid. So why not automate it? Yeah. So I'm going to ICE. I'm going to London. These are hotels. Bang, this is what I fly. Manager says okay, goes here, straight into the accounting software, gets paid by our bank. Done. Yeah. And we can then take this product to TransferWise, to a Pipedrive, to a Betson, and say, how do you do your travel? Yeah. Here's a Slack bot. Yeah. Use this. Yeah. That's exactly. Cool.
Yeah. Exactly. And it goes hand in hand with the move that we are going into the digital age now. So many services and products and SaaS type models which are exploding now because of the digitization in general that we see in society. Yeah. It's really, really interesting that the adoption is happening so quick now, and companies have to change. They have to develop. We being one of them, obviously, as a traditional event company that have to become a media company from nowhere and so forth. It's for for innovative people, this is like a gold rush.
It's a gold rush. You're
it's a gold
spot
rush.
on.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
I got in trouble the other day. I said, keep the pandemic going. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
I don't actually mean that on one hand.
Yeah. No, of course. I mean, it's. I mean, if we see it just purely from an innovative point of view, and obviously disregard the horrible fact of the infections and so forth. But if we only look at the movement of society, this is the time where the next $1 billion companies are born. This is the time for the next unicorns and so forth.
But what's interesting in that point, that people, when life is going smoothly, people are happy with the status. People are happy with the status quo, and they're not going to go, hang on, how do we stop here, and how do we think, what can we do? What can we do better? They're happy to go along like it is. We need to have some kind of pandemic, unfortunately, to expose crap business models.
Yes.
And get people thinking, how do we do this now in this new environment? Or how can we do this better? I mean, Netflix is a perfect example of it all. I read another thing on LinkedIn the other night that Netflix, they heard the Queen's Gambit has come out.
Yes.
Now, since it's been out there, and it's great show to watch.
Fantastic, I love it.
The Google search rankings for chess has gone up 35%. Chessboard sales on eBay and Amazon have gone up 256%.
That's hilarious.
Chess.com have had the biggest amount of subscriptions ever. Yeah. And funnily enough, I've now seen on YouTube or Facebook, I'm seeing more chess videos coming up on my thing. So
that's hilarious.
It's amazing how Netflix can sort of control this. But given the thing, you can't go to the cinema anymore. You can't go to a pub after 10 o'clock. More people are adjusting to a different way of life through necessity, but it exposes crap business models, and that's what I love.
Yeah, exactly. That is, and it's not only
inefficient business models. Sorry.
But inefficient business model, bad business model, and so forth. But if we look at also, if we tie it into the iGaming industry, something that I've noticed as well is that throughout the years, throughout our careers in this industry, we've seen the rise of iGaming, right? We haven't really, the iGaming industry hasn't really met any challenges, I'd say. It's been exponential growth each year. So what that brings as well is that whoever, at some point at least, whoever entered the iGaming industry became successful almost automatically. So only when the industry was facing challenges did it expose,
like a Swedish regulation, for instance?
Yes. Then it exposed which organizations have true good leadership on an individual level as well. Because as well as me that with the amount of C-levels that we meet and people that are in high positions, it's actually not that many who are truly good at what they do or truly committed to do the best job that they can. And that was also interesting to me to see, because all of a sudden some organizations started showing cracks, which wasn't visible before, because it was just impossible not to succeed. It's interesting to see as well.
But it still astounds me, that model where, and I think in Europe it's a problem that it's so affiliate driven, that affiliates really have control of the industry, that people come and make their new white label. They go out there and they use the same 10, 20 affiliates in Scandinavia and Germany and whatnot. And that brings a good business. But of that €100 you're making, you're actually probably only clearing €15 at the end of the day, because 50% goes to the affiliate. You've got 10% on payment processing. You've got customer support and VIP. All of a sudden you've got 15% of that 100 left over. And is that really what you build a sustainable business model on when the cracks start, or when the Swedish regulators say, right, no more affiliates there, or no more welcome bonuses? Oh my God, what do? We've got to actually think now. So I suppose if we're looking at this, we've been through the ups and downs of the poker world so often that we've always built with a plan B in mind. That we've got to be careful that shit can hit the fan. What do we do next? And I think we've built with that mindset that we're going to be super agile, that now an opportunity comes up, instead of doing it out of necessity, we can actually jump on that one and go and do it straight away. We built our first sports book in 2016 and we built it in 3 months.
Okay.
I said to the guys, March 2016, the Euros start 10th of June. I need it ready by 5:30 on the 10th of June, please. and we had 5 programmers.
Yeah.
And they worked their ass off for 10, 12 hours a day, and we launched at 5:30 on the 10th of June. Amazing effort.
Yeah.
And now this sports book, it's sponsoring Arsenal, it's sponsoring Southampton, Watford, Flamingo, Brett Lee, Baruto, the famous Japanese sumo wrestler, Danielson, and it's got this worldwide following, and it's just amazing to see its growth as a brand, built on the right foundations, but it was a hackathon.
Yeah.
In the first instance, and yes, we've continually iterated the product over the years, and it's really fun continuing to build it, but listen to what the customers want. And I think that's where that innovation, and people say, what is innovation? Well, it's actually just turning the status quo upside down and saying, how can we do this better? That's all it is, and that's what we love doing. And it's getting a bit bigger than originally planned, so can't complain.
500 people. I mean, maintaining that organization and at the same time keeping that innovative spirit.
But I'm not the CEO anymore, so I don't need to do that part of the job, thank God.
You can step back, lay on the sofa, do this, do that.
Well, it's funny, I probably go to the office more now than I used to, just because I've got a bit more time to think and have longer meetings. But no, I'm really... What I've loved with the Yolo Investment side is meeting really interesting people with a similar mindset, and what their expertise in this industry is. Whether it be doing a podcast like this, it's really cool to see how you're doing it and why you're doing it and what angle. And I've listened to all the podcasts; it's super interesting.
Cool.
And I said that the first time we met, and it's like it's a really good format that we're missing this thought leadership. And it's nice to listen to what people are saying. We were talking about the strategy for iGaming Next. I'm like, sure, the C-levels will talk to each other, but what about the CMOs? What about the head of customer support? What's their channel to talk to each other? What about the head of trading? Where do they have their little powwows and whatnot? And there's so many ways we can look at this industry and actually work together rather than as a competitive notion the whole time. So it's almost like the silver lining in some way is you can almost call it like an iGaming intellectual renaissance that is happening now, because since before March, before COVID BC, yes, that's what it's going to be called. Trade market quickly, because I'm about to buy the domain.
Exactly. Next year is year number 1, BC, AC after Corona. So before Corona, the only way to get content from the iGaming industry, to learn from industry leaders, was to pay €1,000 to get access to content at ICE, for example. And to pay, the WGS €2,000, you get access to content. So it was exclusive for this, like the 1% of the iGaming industry, right? They had access to this knowledge. But what happened now after COVID is that it's become so content driven to the digital space, because that's obviously the only way for us as an event company to operate is to do it through content. That it's opened up this knowledge, not only the knowledge that existed before, but on a much, much wider scale to the iGaming industry, because it's so easy to do a podcast with someone who is in the UK, for example, or someone who is in Sweden, rather than both having to travel to
or Ellen Stone, who's in LA, good mate of mine.
Yes, exactly. Ellen Stone. You guys are good mates.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I really enjoyed that podcast actually with Alan. It's a genius. I'm looking forward to follow up with him actually.
But I mean, on that content issue, you're so right there, and I think people enjoy talking about what they're doing well. It's not necessarily that people want to exactly copy, but it might be, does it trigger a thought in your own mind on how I can apply that to my own business? So I think the more you give a chance to people to speak about what they're doing, what they're experts in, it's like sharing the knowledge. It's not sharing the secret recipe or the secret sauce at KFC. This is just, people want to talk about it, and you want to challenge each other intellectually, and how do we take this industry forward?
Exactly.
As Todd says, our competitor is Netflix. It's not each other, not another white label. Our competitor is Instagram, TikTok, Netflix. We've got to fight for that half an hour of entertainment. Use it wisely.
Exactly.
And someone else just said on there, you can buy the bonus.
Buy the bonus, exactly. That was pushgaming.
Pushgaming.
James Marshall.
Really, when you actually put it in the context of, I can see you can buy a bonus like in Colombo, it's great, but there's others you can't buy a bonus. the thing is, someone's got half an hour to play or 20 minutes to play. You don't have 5 hours to sit there spinning, waiting for the bonus. Some people are impatient. Let them. They've only got 20 minutes. Let them buy the bonus now, because that's what they're playing for.
Yeah.
Now, it's an ingenious thought that happen on many levels, but then you put this together and go, that's pretty cool. We might now apply that to a sports book or something. We can apply it somewhere else. Sharing that knowledge, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And one thing we did during COVID was, obviously Telegram's growing, but Hubbard8 is our content aggregator. We thought, let's do a hackathon because they're fun. I like to always push them forward. How do we go and make a free content distribution on using a Telegram group? So we've gone out and done that. So yes, there are still paywalls on different iGaming news portals and whatnot, but we can at least pull the headlines in, excuse me, and you can customise your feed and get your kelvinair.com or your EGR or your iGaming news or whatnot. And then all your headlines come in, and then when you're interested, you can click it and go through to the article, because I don't use emails that much anymore. I don't get those emails, newsletters. They go to spam, and there's not enough time of the day for that way to sift through 100 newsletters. Yeah. The Telegram bot, bang, 1 o'clock every day, here's my top 20 articles. Yeah. I might read 4 of them on different channels, different portals, but condensing the information so that I can make that choice. It's a bit like, I want to play that slot game, but give me the action right now. Yeah. And I'm prepared to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I love this sharing of content. Yeah. It's really important.
And it's something that has amazed me actually in general on this journey that we've had building these projects, how open the industry actually is to share this knowledge in general. Because also we run this HR network, it's called HR Connect. So HR Connect is represented by 23 of the biggest iGaming companies here in Malta. And the purpose of the network is essentially for the HR directors to talk about the shared challenges that their organizations have here in Malta. And we were very scared. In the beginning, we thought, are they going to be open to each other? Are they going to be able to talk about their HR issues that they have internally? Because it's quite sensitive information sometimes. And amazingly, everyone is like super happy to share every single question that is being brought up.
We all go through the same challenges every day. You might as well, a challenge shared is a challenge halved, like it's...
Exactly, and so obviously by the industry coming together and solving these issues that we have as an industry on our organizational level or operational level, it's going to exponentially increase the growth of the industry rather than the organizations working on them separately. And I think this is almost like a trend, also a cultural trend, I think, because I don't think that we would have seen this X amount of generations ago.
We go back to the early days of Casino on Net, 1999, or Paradise Poker. It was very hard to get there. You needed your connections, and you held the information internally, the IP internally, like it was gold. Now it's so easy to run a casino. I must say easy. To get the building blocks together, it's so easy. You can do it in 1 month. That's why there's many casino managers leave a bet so and they go and start their own one because they think they can do it all themselves. But no, it's not that easy at the end of the day. There's a bit of secret sauce in there. But now you might as well share the information. And if people sharing how we're doing it, it's nearly a Metcalfe's law coming through, that's that network effect, that the more people sharing, the more people thinking, and then applying it to their own jurisdiction or their own currency or their own unique selling point. And I think casinos and sportsbooks need to think about what is their USP and drive that home massively, because otherwise we churn out the same thing and it becomes boring and all of a sudden it becomes bonus hunting and an ugly environment.
Yeah, it's true. So, I think a lot of good things are happening within the industry in general. There's a big focus on kind of player protection and these type of things now that we haven't seen before as well. And the focus from the major operators like the Flutters, the GVC, is to improve the reputation of the industry as a whole. And if we go back to where we started this conversation today in the poker days,
it was the Wild West.
It was the Wild West, but at that time, gambling was quite accepted by society because the poker boom was so prevalent in society, right? I was telling you the other day that the poker boom in Sweden was so big that the entire country named a poker set the Christmas present of the year. So every year in Sweden there is like the official Christmas present of the year. Literally, that's what it's called.
Poker set, yeah.
And that one year it was a poker set, you know. So at that time it was very accepted in society to gamble, and you know, poker was clearly for entertainment. Most people saw that, you know. Since then, things have shifted a bit often, and gambling in a lot of markets are seen as something that is not accepted in a lot of ways. Do you think that the industry has a chance to improve to the point again where it's accepted by society in that regard?
I think people saw poker on television.
Yeah.
They didn't see people grinding 12 tables on Stars.
No, exactly.
That was behind the closed doors, or that was on 2+2. Yeah. People see the lotto tickets, the national lottery as a good thing, even though it pays out at 52% RTP, which I don't know how that can be a good thing, but that is accepted. In Finland, you have a couple of slot machines in the petrol stations. That's accepted because it's not too much. But then all of a sudden, if you want to do a big online campaign or advertising on television, oh my God, this is the most disgusting thing of all time.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can never please everybody. No. But I think...
Can we create like a Queen's Gambit phenomenon? Is that what we need to do as an industry?
Where's the skill in a slot machine? Sorry. And the problem with every skillful sports bettor, your trading team's going to limit them because they're too good. For they're betting the closing prices anyway. So poker, you could reward skill, and you could put them on a pedestal and make it entertaining. And you know, you had your Joe Hashims of the world winning the World Series of Poker and whatnot.
Chris Moneymaker.
That
was the
man. So you had that, but now with a slot machine, you're not going to get that. So I think in society, you're never going to get full buy-in from everyone. I think our role in the gaming industry is that those who can afford, never gamble with more than you can afford to lose, and make sure we help people be responsible. So as long as they're treating it as entertainment, putting your $50 on Arsenal this weekend, you're putting your $5 multi on, or having your $20 on a Book of Dead because you enjoy that on the bus on the way home from work. As long as you control it and you do it within your means, I think that's good. And I think our role is not necessarily to blanket ban or blanket source of wealth, AML checks. It's just got to be, how do we help people, if they're normally playing like this and they start playing like this, we just have that conversation. This is different to how you normally play. Is everything okay? Because... Doyle Brunson said, you can shear a sheep many times, but you can kill it once. So it's actually a good responsibility that if we're sensible about it and not blood-sucking vultures, we will have an industry which will grow and grow and grow to the cows come home. Will it be ever accepted totally? No, but alcohol's not totally accepted by half the world. In that sense, it's never going to change. So we need to pick our segment, and treat them well and celebrate their wins. And that's what we're doing. That's when we're doing the job right here. And Doyle Brunson, may he rest in peace. The godfather of poker, obviously classic. Super Systems, great book.
Super System back in the day. This I'd like to start rounding things off today a little bit. I mean, these poker legends were, at that time you saw them as like legends.
TJ Cloutier, Chips Reese.
Fantastic guys back in the day. There's one topic that I wanted to bring up with you as well today on the as we were talking about crypto and Bitcoin and these other things. I don't have like that great insight into the Bitcoin world, but I did one other podcast with Calvin Ayre, who is kind of the founder of BitcoinSV. And he was explaining to me how I can't remember his last name, but Greg is the first name.
The guy who got done for tax fraud in Australia, yes.
That he is the original
Satoshi
Nakamoto, and how BitcoinSV is the original Bitcoin how do you say, protocol, and so forth. So I wanted to ask you, what's your opinion on BitcoinSV?
Well, if I owned 3/4 of the supply of a coin with a couple of other people, I'd be pumping it as hard as I could as well, because naturally the value goes up and it's fantastic. I'll let Kelvin pump it. I think there's got to be an actual usage, and it just can't just be a templated response on why something is good. There's got to be an actual marketable usage there. Yeah. But each to their own, and good luck with him and his own stuff. Yeah. I do see on Bodog that they do accept normal Bitcoin as well as BitcoinSV, but funnily enough. Yeah. Look, I think Bitcoin from our perspective, if tomorrow Banana Coin is the coin that there's mass adoption around the world, we can support that. We want to be agnostic. We just want to want to endorse a digital assets or a digital gaming chip, because we can see the benefit in the gaming industry from the player protection side, from the merchant protection side, from the lower. We have no fraud. We have no chargebacks on our P&L. We can be more generous with our players because we'd have no payment processing costs. Simple as that. Yeah. There's actually a definition here I wanted to read. I read this the other day about Bitcoin and trying to explain it, and I came across it and I thought it was really good. Yeah. Bitcoin is not a standalone currency, but a unit of accounting attached to an innovative payment network. This network, and therefore Bitcoin, only obtained its market value through real-time testing in a market environment because it was worth nothing at the start. Yeah. In other words, once you account for the razzle-dazzle technical features, Bitcoin emerged exactly like every other currency, from salt to gold. People found the payment system useful, and attached accounting was portable, divisible, fungible, durable, and scarce. The money has all the best features of money from history, but adds a weightless and spaceless payment network that is reliable and verified in real time, and that enables an entire world to trade without having to rely on a third party. Now, for me, that says it all, that we don't need to go through... We can have a trusted token of value between two untrusted parties. We don't need to have that notary or that central bank in the middle. So it's not just Bitcoin and gambling is the first iteration. It's a paradigm shift that it's very hard to get your head around why and how it works, but it's programmatic. But money on the paper is not programmatic. You can't tear a bit off and give that. You can't say, lock this money for 1 year until X and Y happens. And when those conditions have happened, then you can spend this here. And that is cryptographically signed that will happen under those conditions. I always look at the self-driving Uber taking itself down to the petrol station, its wallet talking to the petrol Bowser wallet and saying, fill me up, fill me up, fill me up. And then paying a couple of Satoshis for that petrol, so you become efficient. And you're not overspending and over-utilising, you're becoming efficient with everything we're doing. And it's like the perfect Uber city, you don't need traffic lights because all Ubers know where other Ubers are. Drive at 47 kilometres an hour because you'll get there faster than driving at 85 and braking and slowing and spending more money on petrol. So whether it's a utopian world I'm thinking of, I don't know, but there's no one coin has to win. We need to simply take this to the world and have utility in there. And if we can bring 100 people in, we put the Bitcoin logo on the Watford shirt. Great marketing campaign. And 1 billion people saw it. If that brings 100,000 people awareness to Bitcoin, I know 5% of them will gamble. And that's the network effect that we're looking for. But we just want to bring more and more people into this digital world, because if we don't do it now, someone else will do it. And I guarantee you in 20 years' time, like we talk about checks, we'll be talking about money or fax machines or who knows, maybe even mobile phones then. It might be something else in 20 years' time. So
do you see crypto as a paradigm shift?
Completely.
Yeah.
I think the blockchain, and it's that accounting system. So you have got an open ledger that if we make a transaction, people confirm that miners confirm that transaction. If we wanted to try and spend that money again, you wanted to spend it elsewhere, you'd need to ask all these people to unpeel their transactions. Because it's all gone on top of each other, you can't change that transaction. So even though we don't know each other, we don't trust each other, but at least we can trust the ledger. The first iteration is Bitcoin. Now all of a sudden we've got the Lightning Network, which is hugely amazing what we're working on, which is 60,000 transactions per second. Now, in 5 years' time, it might be the double Lightning Network, or it might be all housing contracts. I mean, I've just gone today to the migration office here in Malta and gone through the rigmarole. It could be done so much more efficiently.
Yeah.
It really could. And I think having this shift of mindset to think about how do we make things more efficient and make it better for the customer, they'll enjoy themselves and they'll be repeat users and they'll then be ambassadors of your product.
Yeah.
And personal marketing is the best form of marketing. Recommended marketing from a friend is the best marketing you can ever have.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. So do you think that Bitcoin and crypto in general will take the driver's seat, so to say, in the in front of fiat?
No, I don't know if I can make that claim. I think there's still going to be space. They're still using checkbooks in America.
Yes.
Even though credit cards were made in the 60s, you realise. We're still using a technology which is 60 years old.
Yeah.
The SWIFT network, I think it was in the 80s, I'm not quite sure. But some things won't change, and that's fine. But there'll be a certain segment of the population who will drive things forward. And guess what? Over time, more and more people start to use that. And if we, again, look at where China and Asia is in terms of Grab started out like an Uber. Now GrabPay is all over Malaysia and Indonesia. I'm super excited. Where does Africa fit into this picture? Because they've had their M-Pesa, which is a telecommunication controlled payment network, which everyone can access, using the SSID and whatnot. Where does crypto fit onto that network there? Because they haven't had the PC internet banking experience. They haven't had the mobile banking experience. What's their banking experience is going to be in 10 years' time?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you... I like to think in utopian ways, to Tim, and like thinking in future-driven ways on what's to come and how to implement it in society. But something I'm noticing as well is the pushback from government into this, because obviously, let's take the US government have an interest to protect the US dollar, right? And being up against these...
How many trillions in debt are they?
Yeah, like 20, what is it now, 21 trillion or something. It ticked up to now during the... But... how do you defeat that? Because Facebook obviously launched Libra, got pushback from the US government, and that takes this, it takes the innovation backwards, so it slows it down a lot. How do you break through that? You can't stop innovation, but how do you break through the pushback from the governments who have their own interest in mind?
So I think where governments are going to come in, you're going to have this centrally backed cryptocurrency, which is going to be a stable coin issued by the government. So the governments cannot disrespect a digital asset. If this whole world's moving towards digital payments, they can't disrespect that. They've got to get on there. So there's going to be the digital pound, no doubt, issued by the federal, the UK Treasury, Her Majesty's Treasury, whatever you call it, and you're going to be pay taxes in it. But they're going to know who's got what and how many are out there, and they're going to control the supply themselves. That's fine, but there's still going to be a space for this peer-to-peer based cryptocurrency that, yes, governments can try and chop the legs off that on-ramp, off-ramp, but still, when I went to Delhi, I arrived and I used local Bitcoins, and I said, I put a Bitcoin, or this is a few years back, so it wasn't quite as much, but I put some Bitcoin in escrow. I arrived into the hotel in the centre of New Delhi. Man come up to me, hello Tim, here's your cash, your rupees. Okay, I released the escrow. He got his Bitcoin. We sat and drank tea and talked about Bitcoin in India for the next 2 hours. Fascinating, but no government stopped that transaction. I could go to the ATM and get my rupees out. I could buy them before I left. I just said, you can come to Connaught's place and meet me at the Radisson and give me my cash then. Brilliant. I bought Bitcoins in Kyrgyzstan, in Bishkek. I bought them in Saudi Arabia. I bought them in Melbourne. I bought them in Brazil. It's something that the whole world can use, and it might not have 100% usage by everybody, but there'll be a segment of people using it because it's an efficient monetary supply in that sense.
It's inevitable.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
It's inevitable. Let's end it on a high note today on that regard. So I, for one, welcome our Bitcoin overlords. And I'm looking forward to see what's to come in that regard. So to close things off today, Tim, what's next for Tim Heath?
I think dinner with the whole iGaming Next team tonight,
Yes,
considering I've just become a shareholder of the project. So looking forward to trying a nice new restaurant out. So looking forward to that.
Let's see if we can pay with Bitcoin.
Yes.
If maybe we can convince them that this is the future.
I'm happy to give them the first $50 for free. Don't worry.
Let's try that out. Tim, it's been fantastic today. Like I said in the beginning, I've known of your name, I've known of you for a very long time, and it's really nice to kind of meet you in person and start knowing you in person on a high note by doing this podcast. It's always really nice and interesting to sit down in this format, to get to know each other. It's been absolutely fantastic, and I
think we could have gone on for another 3 hours, to be quite honest.
We heard in our headphones that we're 1 hour, 110, 120. It just rushes away from us. But
1:30, there it is.
1:30, right, there we go. Perfect timing. So, Tim, thank you so much for today.
Yeah, thank you as well, mate.
Let's go have dinner.
Indeed, sounds good.
Thank you, everyone. And thanks to our sponsors, Pragmatic Solutions, as well, for supporting the podcast. And I wish you all a good day.